The button.
Evening, everyone. Welcome to the Layover Live. This evening on the Layover, Mark is sliding sideways before going up. Lindsay's getting wet, and I'm up for a bit of change. Welcome to the Layover.
One life for the revolution. Rise up and unite. Woo! Rise up.
We almost had a faux pas then.
Really? A faux pas?
No, really, because they've updated this broadcast thing that we use here. And actually, where the live button used to be is now another button. And I pressed that, and it didn't look like what I thought it did, and I had a bit of a panic. So, but we made it in time, Lindsay. We were on time.
Very good.
Gang.
Very good. Nice to see you. Are you not too tired, are you, Scotty? This is landing
I'm exhausted.
day.
This is landing day. Yeah, I landed from Atlanta this afternoon. So, yeah, we'll be fine. We'll get through the show. Elaine said it's a bit too early for a red card, but it's never too early, Elaine.
Isn't Elaine on holiday? I'm sure Elaine's on holiday.
Yeah, in Malaga somewhere. So she's obviously watching us from the sun.
Oh, that's lovely. So
that is.
Well, we went up to White Waltham yesterday.
We did. We ate food.
Well,
I went ostensibly to help with the permit renewal for my aeroplane, and I got there literally as they were signing the last piece of paper. So that's how much help I was.
Well, and also just to top that, there was Mark and myself, Mark's children went to order food. Food turned up. Everybody had a meal. No food got put down in front of my plate. Forgot to order my food. So double in the doghouse.
Oh dear, oh dear.
But apart from that, we've been okay.
She hasn't really mentioned it much since, so that's fine. Everything's fine. Anyway, on with the show.
What's this about going sideways before?
Going sideways. It all goes sideways.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you've ever wondered what an orbital class rocket looks like, just as if it loses its engine, one of its engines, 1 second into launch, then go no further than watching the Astra launch, which launched, I think it was this week. If you want detail on it, I've watched the Scott Manley channel, which is really, really, really interesting. Scotty, do we have a video of this thing?
We do have a video of this thing. It's just bonkers. Here's the video.
2, 1, ignition, 0.
First motion.
First motion.
Objective is max Q.
There we go. She says our next objective is max Q, which surprised everybody because they thought they were going to hit the big red button that blows it up. I particularly like when they said first motion, which is a fairly standard rocket terminology, but usually it's up, not sideways. And what had happened was it had immediately lost an engine and translated sideways. There's an amazing shot a bit later in where they cut back to the launch pad, and it had basically plowed a furrow in a field next to the launch pad, which is up in Alaska. And the thing had gone through a gate. There was a gate left open, and it had actually gone through like a farmyard gate. And the only reason it went up was because it burned off fuel. So, but that is some impressive flight dynamics and guidance. Well, I think that most other rockets years ago, they'd just fallen over and blown up, haven't they? In a
What I
zillion
did, I
bits.
mean, I feel quite sorry for the camera person because they'd
That's what I was going to say.
planned up
'Cause-
and thought, oh wait, no, it's not there.
Hang on a minute, where's it gone? I've missed it. He actually thought he thought they'd missed it, and
Yeah.
then they thought, hang on a minute, what's it doing over there?
Yeah.
It wasn't
It's
supposed to be
just
over there.
amazing. So yeah, launches from Alaska, which is a little bit unusual. Seems a bit far north, really, for rocket launches. But guess we're going to be launching from Shetland, aren't we? So
Yeah,
Wales
towards the end
as
of
well.
this year, yeah.
Maybe there's just less to hit in the case that it does go wrong.
yeah, and I guess that's a good example of why they need plenty
Why?
of space. It's not brilliant news for the company because, of course, they're hoping for lots of success, and I think they've got 50 customers that have contracted them to launch. But it's only a 5-year-old company.
I guess 5 years old in the terms of, relative to, how long other sort of space companies have been around is just moments.
It's moments. Yeah, it is moments. And the CEO said there's plenty of data there that they got out of it. So I guess, it's a successful failure, as it were. They also build a thruster up for a orbital launch, orbital activity as well. So quite amazing. It's just an amazing watch and well worth, like I say, hop on over to Scott Manley's channel and have a look at the full-on detail because it's
The
quite
thing that
amazing.
made me chuckle a little bit in all of this was that why they described why they were in Kodiak, Alaska, because they said it's 1,000 kilometers of the Gulf of Alaska between it and the rest of the USA's most northern state. Events like today's mishap therefore pose little danger to land-based life forms. That was on their official thing about this. Land-based life forms.
Yeah.
Oh, those poor pigeons are going to get it.
And the seals.
Yeah, never mind. Yeah, so Lindsay, what's this about you getting wet?
Well, not me. So we'll just clear that up before Elaine gives us another red card. But I'm sure we've all seen the images from the Stearman crew who made a successful ditching yesterday into Poole Harbour. Now, I don't know if you've got a picture of it, Scott. Yeah, so the Stearman was taking part in the Bournemouth Air Festival when it reported a fault and then flew away from the display area. And then a short time later, ditched near the Sandbanks chain ferry. Now, the important thing on this is that both the pilot and the wing walker are, okay and well as far as, ditching efforts go.
Amazing stuff. Belly's very oily. I'm not going to speculate, but the belly's very oily. But that's air show safety working correctly, right? Airplane has problems.
100%.
Says off. I'm off. I go off somewhere else and go and deal with the issue safely and so on. I presume the walker was on the wing. And did they get inside? There's also I've got loads of questions.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to hear how it kind of pans out. Really interesting stuff.
Any wing walking experience, Scotty?
I have zero wing walking experience, but I know somebody who does.
I've got a small amount. Like 9 minutes would be my wing walking.
Go on. You've got to tell the story about your hoodie. It's the funniest story I've heard in ages. Go on.
First of all,
tell
can I ask how you get up there?
What, as in onto the top of the wing?
I'm confident that I know how an airplane takes off.
Right, okay.
So yes.
Well, you just get a boost. You get a little leg up.
Isn't it very
it's
far?
quite tall, but there's bits you can stand and you kind of have to hoik yourself up a little bit.
I'm not sure I've got the flexibility for that.
No, you 100% would struggle.
Okay.
And they only have like a kind of size 8 flying suit for you to get in, for all the weight and balance and everything. So
What would you?
Oh, really?
No, I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that you might struggle getting on top. So I turned up. It was kind of one of those weather days where it was a little bit overcast, a little bit cold, not really sure what to wear. And the only sort of jumper I had in the car had a hood on it. And they specifically said, oh, you really kind of don't recommend wearing a hood. And I was like, oh, I'm sure it'll be fine. I'll just tuck it in. So my mum, who had been, came along to watch, she kind of rolled it up and tucked it in. And I thought, okay, we're totally good to go here. Anyway, accelerating down the runway, hood caught the wind and then lit up like a sail behind me, nearly throttled me as we took off. So, lesson learned is to take the advice of
The pilot's
professionals.
probably thinking,
Why
why are we 10 knots slower than normal?
Yeah. But this isn't the
Interest-
only kind of warbird to ditch this year. We had, what did we have earlier?
There was a Grumman Avenger, which
yeah.
ironically was painted like one of the ones that was lost in the Bermuda Triangle.
That's right.
And that was all very dramatic. I think there's a little bit more to that. There's certainly, you don't have to go very far to on the internet to find some commentary about whether that airplane should have been in the spot that it was in, but
Should have actually been flying at all. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, there we go. And of course, it's 10 years since a very sad Red Arrow's crash.
John Egging.
John Egging, and the John Egging Trust is up and running. And since it's a bit of a sort of charity themed episode, that is an amazing trust and doing loads of good work. And Emma Egging, Dr. Emma Egging, who's his wife,
And one of the trustees is Director Space, Harv Smith, who we had on, and he talked about the John Egging Trust when he was on and being part of that family.
She's got loads of really good stuff on Twitter. You can follow kind of all the different fundraising efforts they're doing and all the exciting stuff that they're getting up to. She's really quite active on that. So, if you want more information, you can obviously go to the website, but if go onto Twitter and have a look at her profile.
And definitely scroll back and watch Harv's episode on here as well, because he was inspiring.
Awesome.
Yeah,
he was absolutely awesome. Before we move on, though, that Avenger, it'd just been rebuilt. They'd spent 18 years rebuilding this airplane.
Yeah.
It's second time out the blocks.
Yeah,
this happened.
Oh God. Oh my God.
I can't believe that happened right in front of us.
Yeah, saved his Bose A20s though.
I was going to say that was the couple of takeaways I had from this. One was everybody on the beach was shouting, take a picture, not save the pilot, save the pilot. And the second thing was that the only thing that he had in his hands were his bows, and he kept them above his head so they didn't get wet. That's £1,000 worth of headset, that is. There's no way that's getting wet.
Good job Darren wasn't on that beach, our guest tonight, because he'd be out there levering bits off and turning them into coffee tables. But Scotty,
What?
Change it. What's changing? What are you?
Everything's going to change. It's not me changing. It's all of it's going to change. So
it's ominous.
Yeah, we had a meeting this week, didn't we? It was rather nice.
We did have a meeting, and the meeting involved merch being delivered, which was good.
Yeah, we're not doing any product placement with the merch, though. But if anybody wants a cup, we've got 4,500 of these to sell. It's fine. We've decided we're going to have a little change on how we deliver the show. We're going to do one live show a month, probably starting in December if we can get our act together. And then the other 3 shows will be pre-recorded. And will involve all sorts of different things, won't they, Lindsay? Tell us about them.
Now that we can get out and about, so it'll be museum visits. We'll do some bits on travel, do some bits on lifestyle, a little bit about leisure. So we'll have kind of one live show. I'm going to say one kind of techie, geeky show, and then something else on something that's a bit more for everyone.
There'll still be an airship round.
Yeah, there'll still be an airship. Quick fire
question round. Yeah, not a chance. And why have we decided to do this? A couple of reasons. Thankfully, it's getting a bit busier at work. So we can't guarantee that we'll be around every Sunday. So that's one of the reasons. and it allows us to fit this in around our schedule whilst flying. And we'll still keep the live shows because we love the live shows and we love interacting with you all, but a little bit more of pre-recorded content, and we can go and visit Darren in his factory.
Yeah.
And that'd be amazing. That's like it's like an Aladdin's cave of merch.
It's like a toy shop, isn't it, for grown-ups?
Yeah.
It is. Well, not just grown-ups. There are stuff that kids can have as well.
I feel like I'm going to have to send Mark out with very specific amount of money. That's that's the cap, and there's to be no more spent.
Yeah, well,
I'm going to give like a pre-brief to Darren as well.
Yeah, that doesn't work. So what happens is, like Sharon does, she says to me, "Don't spend any more than X." So I phone Darren up and say, "If Sharon ever asks, we didn't spend any more than X."
That is good to know. Scotty. That's good to know.
That's how it works. Sharon always thinks I stick within budget. And then I took her to the factory once, and I almost died when I thought Darren was going to tell her the real price of everything. No, I'm joking.
So just one more thing then before we go to our guests tonight. 5th of December is a date for everybody's diary. So we're going to be supporting Pilots Together for their annual charity raffle. Loads of really good prizes already. So date for the diary, and we'll look forward to hosting that.
Oh yeah, and it's going to be in a cracking venue. We might have a venue lined up already, which is looking great. Yeah. A bit of a surprise there. So hopefully that will be an amazing evening. A couple of hours of guests. You might get to come, Mark, if you're lucky.
Is it a good venue? Really good venue.
It's an amazing venue. Yeah,
And
we will be live.
This is going to trouble him for the whole show now.
It's going to trouble him now because he doesn't know where it is.
Just write it down.
No. You are you are going to love it. I can guarantee you're going to love the venue. But let's move on from that. We're not allowed to talk about that because it is an actual secret.
Okay. 5th of December in my diary.
Cracking. Right. So before we get this week's guests, well, actually guests on, I've got another bonkers airplane I want to share with you. This has become a bit of a theme with me, hasn't it? The bonkers airplanes. So have you ever heard of the RS4 bobsleigh?
Nope.
Okay, so this was an RAF airplane. Here it is here. So it was completed its first flight in 1951. It was converted from what's been called an RS3 Despot, which was a 1945 aircraft. Winkle Brown said they must build this airplane because this is the future. And why do you think they called it the bobsleigh then, Mark?
So the only reason I'm going to say this is because a little while ago I went up to Cosford and saw a prone pilot Meteor, and the front end was not dissimilar to that.
In fact, that is exactly where the front end went eventually. So where you would think traditionally the pilot would sit on this is wrong. The pilot actually lay down on this, and here is a little picture of how the pilot actually flew the airplane.
With the world's largest protractor next to them. What is that?
I've got no idea, but this was the picture. Yeah, so the initial design proved challenging for the pilot. The control levers, bicycle brakes for the ailerons and the elevator. The pilot's feet were in stirrups for the rudder controls, and they were the wrong way around. So the rudder was the wrong way around. So push right, get left. So a bit of rubbish actually. But you know, the Gloucester Meteor, was adapted to actually have this very same idea. But the concept never caught on. Why did it not catch on, Mark? Tell me.
Well, I'm presuming that it was terribly difficult for his turn-ups to move. I have no idea.
Well, it's very similar to Lindsay's problem with her hoodie. Ejecting in this position is never going to be good.
Okay. You'd be sort of fired out like a gun, wouldn't you? That would be
it would never work. So it was the challenges of rearward visibility when you were doing dogfighting, because they had to use mirrors, and also the challenges of ejecting. But they did prove that they could actually have way more G by doing this, significantly more. And as we know, this kind of thing was almost adopted with the F-16, which they are recumbent, aren't they, in the F-16?
They are very,
Really
very
interestingly. Yeah, really interestingly, though, the airplane still exists. This is it. Yeah, so it does still exist. Yeah, so it was rebuilt in 2018. It's resides in an airfield near Northamptonshire, and the plan is for it actually to go to the New York Air Museum. So it looks a bit like, you know, is it a de Havilland Dove? Those engines, sort of gypsy engines, probably
Gypsy Queens or something like that. It might be Majors, but it probably looks more like a Mars Gemini or something like that. But yeah, weird thing.
Bonkers thing. Right, that was my bonkers airplane. But on to this week's guests.
Yes.
This week we're joined by Darren and Kim Lewington, who have been at the Light Aircraft Association rally at Sywell today. At least Darren has, and we know he's just made it back. Darren is probably most well known as the owner of Aerotiques and the design inspiration for upcycling so many aircraft parts. What's probably not so well known is Darren is an avid aviator. He's also the chairman of the trustees of the Charity Fly2Help, which is based at Gloucester Airport. His better half, he's the chairman, but actually the driving force behind the charity and programs manager is Kim, his better half. Welcome to you both. Welcome to the show.
Evening.
Hi.
Hey,
Brilliant.
we're placing merch, but I can see you're placing merch as well behind you there. How much is that one, Darren? We'll put it on the thing.
That is the only piece of Aerotiques stuff in the house at the moment, and I got into trouble the last time because I sold Kim's coffee table, and she was quite disappointed. Where's my coffee table gone? Well, I sold it, and I still haven't made a new one, so I'm in trouble. That's a runway light from Bristol Airport.
Can we get it
really?
a bit closer? Can we have a look? Or is it attached to the wall?
No, there we go. So Bristol upgraded their runway lights 3 or 4 years ago to LED systems. We went down and collected all their old scrap ones, and we've sandblasted them and made them into table lamps.
Wow, look at that.
Why not?
Excellent. I'll have peered out at that in the middle of the night, delivering mail.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's the whole basis of the business, really. Stuff can get reused when it's no longer flying or no longer required. And yep, that's what we do.
Well, look, before we move on to that, what the viewers didn't see was you literally pulled up in the driveway just as we're about to start the show, because you hot-footed it from the LAA rally, something we didn't get a chance to attend this year, which is a bit of a shame. But and it's good that it's back on. Should we just set off by talking about the LAA rally, because it's probably best that you've been there. You can have a chat about how it was and describe to the viewers sort of what is the LAA rally, so what's it turning into, what's it has been, and how was it?
Well, it was fantastic to be back out back in an airfield environment with a fly-in and lots of people, and amazingly for the UK, good weather. Unfortunately, the rest of the UK didn't have such good weather today, so there weren't so many visitors. But Friday was really busy. I think they had something like 400 aircraft fly in, about 400 again on Saturday. Perhaps I would say probably about half of that today, but I'd guess around 1,000 airplanes over the course of the weekend. Light Aircraft Association, formerly the PFA, Popular Flying Association, the body for home built and amateur aircraft in the UK, and it's the nearest we get to Oshkosh, although let's be realistic, it's a tiny fraction of what happens at Oshkosh, with a whole load more bureaucracy and usual stuff that we do in the UK to make flying difficult. But it was great. It was really, really good to be back out and about, catching up with old customers, new customers, and yeah, just seeing a whole host of aeroplanes whizzing about the place. It's been great, and then it was a mad rush down the M42 and M5 with probably several speeding tickets encountered.
We're not paying for them. We're
Let's
definitely
hope
not
not.
paying for them.
Let
A
me-
little bird tells me that you tried to bend the ear of the Secretary of State for Transport today or yesterday. Is that correct?
Yeah, unexpectedly to me, he flew in. Grant Shapps flew in ironically his N-registered PA32, which you'll need to get a UK license for come December. And he came to address the rally and said lots of positive things about trying to make general aviation in the UK the best place in the world, and saving airfields and deregulating and making stuff easier, which he's been saying for some considerable time. We haven't seen very much action on that, to be frank. And I think a lot of your viewers will have quite differing opinions on how the current pandemic has been handled in respect to the commercial industry. So knowing that he was there, I went along, couldn't find any rotten tomatoes on the way, but I went along to try and get an update and find out and perhaps ask some challenging questions, along with lots of other people who felt the same. He was getting a fair amount of stick for turning up in an NREG aeroplane now that we can't fly on FAA licenses from later this year. But he kind of swerved it, as good politicians do, and I bumped into him at the YES, the Youth Education Support stand, which is part of the LAA, a voluntary part of the LAA, where the members engage with youngsters, air scouts, schools, all that type of stuff to get young people, children involved in aviation and flying. So that's where I bumped into him on the stand, and pleasingly, he was kind of doorstepped by the Yes guys and myself, and agreed to set up a meeting with the aviation minister, Robert Courts, to get all of the organisations looking after youngsters in aviation around the table to discuss best practice and things to do. So that was a huge benefit for me, wearing my other hat as a trustee of Fly2Help. So yeah, good opportunity, well taken by YES, and hopefully we can get around the table and get some stuff sorted and get some money out of the government to take things forward.
Good.
And what was the kind of feel for the weekend? Do you think people were excited to get back? You know, was there, obviously people can book to fly in, park up, and then they, you know, is there's sort of, you know, different stalls around, or what, you know, what's the kind of the mood at the rally?
As I say, around about 400, I think, certainly on the Friday. A lot of people camped over the weekend, and there were still quite a few aircraft there as we left the scene. From Europe as well, there was some Swiss and Germans and Swedish and French aircraft around. That's traditionally been the case, but obviously I guess COVID has made that fairly tricky for some. Whole load of stalls, had a whole load of presentations, a lot of focus obviously on the home building community, so workshops on how to weld, how to do fabric, all sorts of stuff going on, and good bunch of guest speakers, and everybody was smiling, everybody was just pleased to be back out and about flying and seeing each other again. So yeah, there was a real good positive feel about it, and it was a good weekend for us. We've really enjoyed it.
Brilliant. So, Darren and Kim, I want to ask a few questions. So every week when we have our guests on, the dog's giving you a little growl as well there. We kind of ask people how they got into aviation and what their pathway is, because for some people, you know, it was really sudden and sure, and for other people, they kind of almost stumbled upon it. So how did you guys kind of get yourself into the aviation scene?
Well, my dad was a ground-based engineer at Southend, worked for Aviation Traders at Southend, where I'm from in Essex. And for as long as I can remember, I've been fascinated by anything that can fly. Our Sunday morning routine was to go to the airport museum at Southend, which was just a ruse for my dad to meet his mates for a Sunday lunchtime pint at the airport club. I did asking the same questions week in, week out as we walked around the museum, looked at the same aircraft, and stand at the fence at Southend with my bottle of fizzy pop, watching the Carvers and Viscounts and Herald. So it was inevitable that I was going to end up in aviation. Wanted to fly. Did the BA selection back in 1986, I think, when I was 16, 17. Did all the computerized stuff. Spent a weekend at Crane Bank doing all what I now know to be personality profiling, all that type of stuff. Got a nice letter saying thanks, but no thanks on this occasion. Feel free to apply again. Never did because, well, I then thought about aeronautical engineering for university perspective. Discovered sex, drugs, and rock and roll in my teenage years. Didn't get the grades I wanted to go to university. Friend of mine worked in air traffic control at Southend and said, "There's a job going here. Why don't you come and be an assistant in the tower?" And I did. Loved it. Got my controller's license. Validated my controller's license on the 21st of July. Got made redundant on the 31st of July. Ink still out of my license. Wrote to every airfield in the country, and the boss at Gloucester at the time was an ex-Southend controller. 3 weeks later, I was there with everything owned in the back of a transit van, and that was 28 years ago.
Wow.
It staggers me. I completed my ATC training, ended up as the ops director on the airfield. Left to set Fly2Help up, 3.5 years ago, freshly. In the meantime, I happened to bump into this one. And
he says it's so lovely.
Yeah.
But Kim's been in it.
Kim, where did he bump into you?
Well, what he hasn't said was I actually trained him at Gloucester to be an air traffic controller because I was already one. So he was just this arrogant young bloke that thought he knew everything, and apparently he still does. But we won't go.
And he still drives around in a van, just to be clear, with all his stuff.
Yeah. So my start was completely different. I didn't have a passion for aeroplanes at all. As a kid, I was a competitive runner, and when I left school with not many qualifications, my mum said, "Go out and get a job." And I said, "But I just want to run." So I thought the Air Force would be a good place. Unbeknown to me, I had to get a job within the Air Force as well. I couldn't just run. Anyway.
Join and do sports.
Yeah, I just want to run. Cut a long story short, I was too young. I did some tests. I was too young. But they said I could come back and apply as an air traffic controller. And in the meantime, go and get some work experience. And it was when the government were doing work experience schemes, the Youth Opportunity Programme. And bizarrely, by fate or whatever, I had a 6-month scheme at Staverton, as it was then. And after 3 months, they offered me full-time employment as an air traffic assistant. Was there for a while, went to Newcastle Airport because I thought the grass was greener, sort of bigger airports might be more interesting. But actually, I then came back to Gloucester and then trained as a controller. Did that for quite a few years, and then went on to do admin and business development at the airport. And the best part of my job became sort of showing kids, school kids around, Cubs and Scouts, showing them the airport and seeing the excitement on their faces. So when Fly2Help set up, moved from Kemble to Gloucester, and an opportunity came up to develop the Aim High program, it was I left the airport, and that was it. That's where I got to Fly2Help, and I've got my sort of dream job now. Cheesy as it sounds, that's what I do all the time. So. And your
dream? Well, being Darren's husband, being Darren's wife.
I've got my dream husband, but
yeah.
I'm gonna. Good skills, sort of unflappable controller type skills there with the dog kind of.
I've just pressed the dog and shut the window so she doesn't jump out.
Yeah. I'm going to leave Fly2Help behind for a little bit because we're going to come back to that a little bit later, if that's okay. Darren, I'm going to ask you about your Cub because if we get Mark on talking about your Cub, we're never going to get it stopped, right? So, and we've only got an hour. So I'm going to ask you about your Cub. You fly around in your Cub. In fact, I've seen you flying around in a few airplanes, but is the Cub your favourite? If so, why? If it's not, what is and why is that your favourite?
Mike would be a bit sniffy about my Cub because it's not actually a real Cub. It's a Wag Aero Cubby kit version of the J3. Oh, is that okay? There's a lot of proper cub drivers look down their noses as that little cubby. It's fantastic. I originally bought a share 20 years ago when it came up in a crate from New Zealand. Loved it, great fun. Sold the share reluctantly for a period of time, but then when I left the airport, bought it back. And I just don't think you can have any more fun in an aeroplane than watching around, watching the lorries overtaking you on the M5 and landing in a little 300-meter basket.
Yeah,
it's proper flying, and it's great. I've got a share in an RV8 as well, which is a real pocket rocket. Fantastic fun too. Big step up from 55 knots in the Cub to 155 in the RV. So haven't flown that for a bit. It had an engine overhaul, and I needed to do some circuits on. We couldn't, and then there's been a pandemic and all that other stuff. But the permit's back in now, and fingers crossed might actually get to fly that in the next week or two. But yeah, I do love my Cub. I've been very fortunate to fly some incredible aeroplanes, including a Spitfire. And I can't say my Cub's the favourite over Spitfire. If I had a choice, I suppose I would have a Spitfire in the fantasy hangar as well. But yeah, I love my Cub. Wouldn't be without it now.
we definitely need to do fantasy hangar again. Maybe for the sort of Christmas special, get a few people on to come up with some really diverse fancy hangars. I love the Cub. I say to people it's faster than a seagull and slower than a train. Because usually you overtake one and then get overtaken by the other at White Waltham just as you leave. But it's a great balance, isn't it, of cost and fun and usability. But yeah, brilliant. And Kim, are you a flyer?
No, not at all. Don't
Not
actually
really?
I really admit it, but I'm not a keen flyer. I've flown with Darren 3 times now, and the first time was only a couple of years ago, so it's taken all these years for me to fly. But I have now flown in the Cub twice. Wow.
Yeah.
So no.
And you sort of take it or leave it then, or can you appreciate what Darren's saying about the thing? You just think, oh, it's a very slow thing and it's in the way, blocking up that taxiway.
I'm gonna interrupt now and say that once you're airborne and she realises we're not going to crash, and she's looking out the window, clicking away on the phone, she absolutely loves it. And we went up to East Midlands for a meeting one night in February on an absolutely gin clear winter's evening, right over the top of Birmingham. And again, she absolutely loved it. So it's true,
probably
isn't it?
Yeah, it's probably the not knowing. I am some would say a bit of a control freak, so I do like to know, to be in control. And when I'm flying with Darren, I haven't got a clue what's going on, which is really bad as an ex-air traffic controller to admit that. But he has bought me a trial lesson in a Robin at Christmas, which I actually haven't taken yet, but maybe once I have a few lessons, maybe.
Gins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I may feel a bit better. I don't know. It's just not my thing. I love it, and I love what aviation does, which
Yes.
we'll talk about when we talk about Fly2Help. But it's just not for me. I love being at airports. I'd stand on the ground watching airplanes forever, but
Yeah.
flying just isn't.
Isn't that interesting? And that's one of the things we've tried to do with this show, is kind of encompass the full spread of people and aviation, and be it from rockets to Cubs and hang gliders and
Wingsuits.
Yeah, wingsuits.
Space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Framing,
tiny little things that go to the moon. I can't
Yeah.
even remember what they're called now. Those little things
Those
that look
funny-
like rhinos.
those funny little bugs. Yes.
Yeah.
There we go.
Amazing. But I think you are the first air traffickers we've had on, actually. Just to say that. I don't think we've had any air traffickers on. Bizarrely,
Yeah.
bearing in mind how many air traffickers we know, we haven't not had any on the show.
Well, we're
Yeah.
both
Note to self.
X now, although Darren does teach it, so his RT is still up to scratch, whereas mine's probably a little bit ropey.
I'm doing a bit of ATC instruction at the college at Gloucester, and in fact, my RT and my procedures are better than they have been at any point in the last 28 years now, because I need to.
And what I would say is that the tower at Southend has a special place in my life, because as a kid, I used to fly with my family. We used to get flown by my dad, and clearing customs was always at Southend. And so very strong memories for me, walking along behind the heralds and aeroplanes like that, and then walking into the tower to pay a landing fee. And they used to have those tubes that
The landing things, we used to send poppadoms up there at night on the takeaway would be delivered downstairs, and you'd send it up in the tube bit by bit, much to the annoyance of the controllers. But I may well have taken your landing fee. That's where my career started in the
and I never thought I ended up flying a Herald as my first airliner. So it was I never thought I would, because it was old when I was a kid. So but there we go. Yeah. Anyway. Scotty, I think you're about to ask.
Darren, we're gonna move on a little, because I want to know, how do you get from air traffic control to making amazing pieces of art out of old airplanes? How does that one get to the other? Tell us how you got there.
I borrowed a dead propeller out of one of the hangars at Gloucester years ago and put it in the shed, and my ex-wife said, "There's absolutely no way that's ever coming in the house." It's not the only reason she's my ex-wife, but hey, that's a whole other story. So I had this idea that I wanted some cool stuff, and we had at Gloucester there was a Beach Duke 8-seat twin-engined light aircraft that the fire crew used as a fire crew training thing. Unserviceable and effectively been dumped on the airfield, but the propeller spinner had been left on it, and every time I drove past it on the airfield, I thought, I must take that spinner off and polish it up. It looked lovely in the office. And it was about 5 years ago now. The dog's just about to go crazy, by the way, because
this entire show is driven by dogs. I'm surprised that Milo isn't.
Milo's looking. He's looking, and he's going.
Well, interestingly, Penny said Milo needs more camera time. She's obviously getting bored of us now, so we'll get Milo on. Thanks for that, Penny.
So the Duke was there, drove past it about 5 years ago, and the spinner was missing. I thought, that's strange. So I went back to the fire crew and said, "Where's the spinner gone?" They didn't seem to know about it. Went down to the maintenance team, and the maintenance manager said, "Oh yeah, the new guy wants to come and talk to you about it." And he's called Darren as well. And a couple of days later, Darren turned up in my office with looking quite sheepish, thinking he was in trouble, with this spinner beautifully polished up and mounted on a piece of wood. And I said, "I'm so pleased you've done that. I've wanted to do it for years." And we had a pretty short discussion saying, "Look, we could do this as a revenue stream for the airport. We could sell these pieces, blah, 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 or you and I could do it ourselves." And it started like that in our garages and sheds. Then we got a little bit of space borrowed at the airport. And he's one of these naturally, he doesn't realize how gifted he is. He's just got such a fantastic eye for design and the mechanical, the practical skills to do the vast majority of the work. And it's not a job. We just mess around with cool stuff in the workshop, and the people buy it is better still.
And did you have any kind of like furniture making expertise beforehand, or was he just thought, okay,
just buff this up?
Darren's not here to defend himself, so I'm going to say sort of. My dad's being an engineer. He's again very talented and can do just about anything with anything. So I grew up in that environment. I did technology at A level, loved being in the workshop, and I really enjoyed that side of things. But my career path never took me down that. Effectively, I spent 30 years either talking to airplanes or answering emails, but now actually making stuff and getting grease under my fingernails and cuts on things, it's just fantastic. And there's something hugely rewarding about standing back at the end of the day with something in your hand or something that you've built as a tangible thing. From a traffic control perspective, it was the same airplanes going round and round and round every day. But don't get me wrong, I loved it, thoroughly enjoyed it, but it's something altogether different, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, you've got me thinking about that Beach Duke now. So, but I'm going to move on to the 747, because I know it's close to sort of all of our hearts. Some people are a bit upset about the passing of the 747. Others, well, it's how life changes, isn't it? And it's what's different, I guess, about this round of retirements is that you've been able to kind of memorialize these things, and people can own a little bit of them. I presume that the jumbo itself has been has that been a massive opportunity or an opportunity for your business? Or
yeah, enormously. It's been a real game changer in the last 12 months. I mean, I was genuinely quite concerned at the start of the pandemic that people would stop buying luxury items they don't really need, and we were in for a tough time. But factor in the retirement of the jumbo, and things have changed enormously. I was always aware of, what an iconic aeroplane it was, although I never actually flew on one. Never flown a jumbo, but there's so much affection out there. Nobody's got a bad word to say about it. Passengers, air crew, cabin crew, ground crew, engineers, they all love it. And if you ask Joe Public to name 3 airplanes, you'll get Concorde, Spitfire, Jumbo Jet. And it's instantly recognisable, iconic machine that transformed air travel as we know it. And it's, when I reflect on it now, it's not surprising to me that it's so popular. And yeah, we've been absolutely inundated this year, and even this weekend we had a couple of 747 pieces on display on our stand up at the rally. That's generated some more orders, and more importantly, I think it's generated more memories. We had so many people walk past the stand say, "Oh, Victor Zulu, I flew that too, wherever on this day, or that was my last one, or that was my first one," and all this type of stuff. And those personal stories, those human stories, for me as a lifelong av geek, have been fantastic. We've got a piece in the house of a couple who met when they flew Victor Mike for the first time together, now married with kids and all that type of stuff, and they've got a piece of the aeroplane they met on hanging in their house. That's just wonderful. It's not just a piece of paper. It's not just an inanimate object that transports you somewhere. It's got a soul, and what we're doing is a small piece of preventing some of the bits of them becoming Coke cans. So they're going to live on in the hands of people who really appreciate it.
And Darren, when you because there's quite a range of items that you've sort of made, from the 7.4, do you guys have like a set piece, so to speak, or can people put a request in and say, "Oh, I'd really like this made. Is there any way you can do this?"
Yeah, we've done a lot of commission work again over this year, and there are some quite specialised things that we've done. The bulk of it has been the fuselage sections turned into clocks, so single window fuselage sections or doubles, or Scotty's got a triple, and I think Sharon would quite happily have some more bits and pieces. In fact, she was very receptive to the whole concept when she came to the workshop, as I recall, Scotty.
She's very polite.
Actually, it was the best thing I ever did, was bringing her to your workshop for a little visit, because actually it is amazing to see what I don't think really, when you see stuff like this, you actually realise what it can look like if it's polished, if it's etched, if it's got something really personal to you on it as well. I think it just completely transforms it. And actually, as you know, Sharon wanted to buy the galley off the 747 to go into her studio.
And she can't,
bizarrely,
because a cabin services director is doing exactly that. We've got the first class galley from Olfeco, I think it was, that's going to be in her sewing room. We're going to have to cut it in half, unfortunately, to get it into the house. But she said, I spent 30 years circuit serving coffees from these things. I want it to live on.
That's funny, isn't it?
And nothing goes to waste. Even the little bits of skin that we cut off, we make the little key rings and things with, and even the ribs and the stuff that we can't really use aesthetically, we're melting down and making cufflinks and jewellery with. So nothing goes to waste.
I think Sharon might be giving us a surreptitious message here.
Yeah,
oh, no, she's saying
full message.
No, you can't have anything else. Yeah, never mind.
Before I move on to Kim, because we've been blathering away about aeroplanes and things for far too long. The 747 is presumably coming to an end in terms of its availability for chopping up into bits and so on. So, have you got your eye on another? Are you sort of hoping? Well, I hope they retire all of those ... as I get my saw out.
We are at the end of the 747 fleet. There's one left to scrap at St Athan and two at Kemble. three special schemes survived, along with another of the Chatham flag down at Dunsfold, and there are 5 that are potentially flyers again and freighter conversions. So I think that's 20 something of the 31 that have been scrapped pretty much within the last 2.5 years. So by Christmas there'll be none left. We've managed to stockpile a fair amount. We've committed to big orders from the guys at St Athan and Kemper, where these are being chopped down, but we are whittling them away quite quickly. This time next year, they will have all gone without doubt. The first of the 777s have been scrapped. The early ones, Zulu Charlie has been scrapped, and Zulu Alpha and Zulu Bravo, the 200s, will follow suit within the next month. A little bit of interest in those as well. But we're seeing the first BA 319s and EasyJet Airbuses and things coming through now. I don't think there'll ever be anything as iconic as the Jumbo. I don't think we'll ever see as much demand for that again. And to be honest, it'll be nice to get back to some of the other bits and pieces that we've done that isn't Jumbo. We don't want to be a 747 production line. We love it, and it's been great fun and very lucrative for the business. But we do want to do some more of the obscure stuff. We made a dining table from a Stearman wing, and we've got a B-24 Liberator nose wheel coffee table. There's some really cool stuff out there.
Yeah. I remember seeing the Stearman wing. That was awesome.
Yeah, we'll have to come on a visit. Can I just, before we move on to Fly2Help, can I just say there is something for everyone in that hangar. So the pieces aren't all, you have to be on pop star wages to get a piece of a 747. There are bits which are relatively inexpensive, and there are some really small bits that you can get for just a few pounds. So if anybody wants a piece of these aircraft, go to Darren's website. There is something for everyone there. Darren might not have it available at the moment, but I'm sure you can get you some stuff. It's pretty cool to be able to get yourself even a small square of one of these just to keep as a keyring, and we saw those earlier.
Yeah,
I think that's really important to me as well, that everybody can have one, whether it's the enthusiasts and the kids who just want that little memento, to somebody who wants a specialised commission piece. It's so much better than, as I say, being a Coke can. It's a piece of history.
Brilliant.
And if I were to say that we may have picked the 5th of December for a particular reason for our next charity event, there may be a clue that the last 747 is going to get cut up around that time, but I'm not going to say anything beyond that.
I'm sure we could come to some sort of arrangement and find you a lovely piece of 747 to raffle off.
Oh, we may already have a number. Yeah.
This is getting more intriguing. Right, Kim.
Not as many as you.
Kim, Fly2Help. It sounds, I know very little about it. There we go. There's the logo. From what I know, it sounds amazing. But can you explain what Fly2Help does, what it's all about, and where it came from?
Yeah, so it's an aviation charity set up 15 years ago this year. Phil O'Dell was one of the main men. Phil O'Dell's probably a name that you've all heard in the flying world, and a few others that realised they'd had a really sort of good career in aviation and got a lot out of aviation, and they sort of got together and thought of putting a charity together that for two reasons really. So Fly2Help's the name of the charity, but within Fly2Help we've got 2 programs. So the Air Smiles Days they sort of raise the spirits of people young and old that are having really difficult times in life, which nowadays sadly are quite a lot of people, but it can range from a sick child to somebody living in isolation or depression and just needing a day out. And we use aviation and the positivity of aviation to make a bespoke day for children. It could be, as you see there, a large group day, but we're sort of really focusing at the moment on family days. We haven't obviously been able to do too many. Sadly, we've done the sort of urgent ones that people have been really wanting to fly with their family and are quite poorly, but we are going to be concentrating more on the family days, and it just gets them airborne and forgets what literally leaves their troubles on the ground for a day. And it's based at a local airfield, sometimes a bigger airfield. We've used sort of Bristol in the past, Chester. Obviously, we're based at Gloucestershire Airport, but we use Biggin Hill. And generally, wherever we get a nomination from for a beneficiary, we sort of approach an airfield. We use volunteer pilots, and we just make a day around aviation. So it's they turn up, we show them behind the scenes. If it's a young family, the children climb on the fire engines, spray water, go flying. We have some lunch. They might drive in classic cars. We've got some dealings with links with classic car companies, and just have a great day. We photograph the day. Douglas Bear sometimes turns up. We make a photo book at the end of it all. So it's memories, but it's just uplifting as well. So
sounds like they've got their own kind of tailored, personalised air show. Just for them. That sounds lovely.
And yeah, so they can come in, sort of, you meet them and they're quite anxious, not really knowing what to expect, and they can see what aviation does. And working in it for so long, we take it for granted. We go behind this, we open the door to the airside, and they all go, wow, and we go, oh yeah, it is. And so we just make a special day. So that's sort of the Air Smiles Day programs that we do. And the other program, which is I'm involved with mostly, is the Aim High program. When I joined, it started that we had sort of week-long programs. So students would apply for the scheme. They would come to be based with us at the airport for the week. We'd select 10 to 12 students that all had a passion for aviation, that were looking to go into it in the future, but weren't sure how to do it, or maybe what areas. And we would have visits out to an Air Force base. They'd have a trial flying lesson. We take them up to air traffic control, down to Rolls-Royce down at Filton, or Airbus. Really lucky having sort of links with all the bigger companies. And we'd show them as much as we possibly could within that week. And that was great. And these students have developed. And recently we had a reunion, and they're sort of in their early 20s now. There's PPLs, there's people that actually got airline jobs, engineers, university students, all following their sort of passion. And sometimes at a different route to when they first came to us. But since then, it's really developed that we've sort of realised that it's not just teenagers that are thinking about a career. It's children from as young as 5 up to 18. And obviously, recently, we haven't been able to invite them to a GA airfield and see the wow factor that GA does. So we've developed what's called our travelling airport. So I think, Scott, you came to the launch event, didn't you?
I came to the launch, yeah. It was awesome. We sat, in fact, both you and I sat and flew the airplane, the airliner. Yeah.
So we take it, it's very compact. We pack it up, it goes in my Mini, and we take it to a school. We set it up. We take volunteer engineers, volunteer pilots, and we set it up, and the children will go into what looks like an aeroplane. The sides are set up with the windows. We put the seats down, the big cockpit at the front. And then the other side is an aeroplane coming at you, towards you, so they learn to marshal. We do primary schools, as I say, from age 5, but we also do SEND schools as well. And it's not just about those that might want a career in aviation. It's about those that need an uplifting sort of experience, and aviation does that. And also what we find is have had a lot of children say, oh, I'm not clever enough to be a pilot, or I'm not clever enough to be an engineer.
And we just say, look at Scotty.
And
Look at Scott.
And so
I have, but joking aside though, I have no A-levels at all. I didn't go to university. I struggled at school. I just worked really hard. I got some maths and physics. And then I worked really hard to be a pilot, and it was tough, but I have no formal qualifications. So I would suggest everybody gets formal qualifications, because my path was not the easiest. But getting formal qualifications helps. But you've just got to have that passion that I think that you kind of instill in these people.
And you have to have people like
what else is there, so people don't think. We show them the Royal Aeronautical Society poster and say, what does it take to put this aeroplane into the sky? And it's pilot, co-pilot, cabin crew, and it's like, yes. And so we've got a security one, so the whole school are doing like checking each other, and then we do sort of baggage handling and boarding cards and things like that. So we show them absolutely everything, but also through lockdown, we developed lots of videos and interviews with pilots, engineers, filming them doing their job, and a careers booklet, which I actually have here. So a careers booklet that sort of shows all the different jobs. So we take those to the school as well, but we sort of do that online. So depending on what the schools want, do they want the video of for 11-year-olds that talk to an air traffic assistant and show the air traffic assistant working in his day job, and then telling them about that he plays football in the evening, so he becomes a real person, or do they want it for 16-year-olds to talk a bit more in depth, being interviewed by pilots and engineers and people that work at airports, refuelers and whatever, and how they got into their careers. So we've been doing that's given us the ability to go beyond the south. So we're venturing to the north. It's not everybody, not every child has the opportunity to know about Fly2Help, apply to a scheme, and actually be on come to an airport for a day and have that opportunity. So we go into the schools now and work with careers leaders and just let them know that aviation is for anybody and everybody. Whoever wants to do it could actually
so
do
just to go back a step then, Kim, if somebody wanted to get involved in this, either as a student or a teacher or a careers advisor, what's the best way for them to do that?
Just look on our website and our contact details are on there. So it's just info@fly2help.org. We work in a tiny little porter cabin at Gloucester Airport. There are only two people that work there. So the info address is actually going to go to Sharon, and we'll just discuss it. So it's not going to get lost. In October, we have a 3-day online program talking about sort of the sustainable future of aviation. And we're looking for students 14 to 18 to apply. And I say apply, go to our website, look on our Aim High page, and it says in 100 words, say why you want to be picked to come online for 3 days. It's during the half term, and we get amazing speakers. Last time we had speakers from Lockheed Martin talking about the retrieval spacecraft system so they can reuse it. We had Rolls-Royce talking about Electroflight, Zero Avia, all of these amazing companies talking about the future, drone flying and everything else. So so we're at the moment now, that's going to be the end of October. We're looking for teenagers that if they're thinking about what's out there for them, do that. But yeah, teachers, careers leaders, just have a look online and just get in touch with us.
So to help them out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all those links that you've just discussed, I'll put them in the video description. So if they want that, they're in the video description below. I'll do that once this finishes and we finish the broadcast and it goes on to YouTube Reel. I'll stick them in the bottom there.
And do you need volunteers? Presumably you need people to come along and volunteer their aeroplane, or?
Yeah, I mean, with the travelling airport, we're sort of tending to do it, I say local to Gloucester, but we're sort of now branching into sort of Birmingham. And yeah, sort of we have had pilots being quite free for obvious reasons, but now they're all sort of, some are not available anymore because they're being called off standby or whatever. So to have pilots that would talk to us, or engineers or anybody, and it is tough. Because obviously with the pilot situation at the moment, people might not want to talk about flying and might not think it's a very upbeat thing to talk about and encourage children into. But, does it make people feel good to talk about their career, and how they got it? It might actually make them feel quite good.
We're certainly not, clearly there's a cohort of our Aim High students who are not going to, just by virtue of the circumstances and where they are in their age, they're probably not going to have that opportunity now. We know that how badly the aviation industry has been hit. But if we're hitting 5 and 7-year-olds, by the time they get not to careers, but when the time they come to choose levels, GCSEs, things like that, the market's coming in an altogether different place. And particularly with some of the sustainable things going forward, Pod, our founder, is going to fly the Project Axel, the world speed record for electric, and that sounds like a Rolls-Royce vanity project. It's not. It's developing really quite fundamental things in terms of battery technology that's going to take things forward in 10, 15, 20 years time, and that's where these kids are going to be. So it's. I've got to say, Kim and Sharon have done a fantastic job during lockdown in just revamping everything. Really agile in what are we doing, where are we going with this, changing it around, delivering it online, and they've exceeded the targets enormously. We've hit something like 1,400 children.
Yeah, we're on target to reach over 2,000 students. So we've got.
That's
Go back tomorrow. It's flat out. I think 1 week we've got 5 visits, careers events at local schools, 3 at a primary school, Ascend School up in Birmingham, the Hive College, where some of the students will be going into the workplace. When we've been up there before, and the one lad that had only thought he could be a gardener now wants to be a baggage handler at Birmingham from our first visit. So the impact it has is amazing.
Aviation still has that, as Kim said. We take it for granted. We worked in it all the time, but getting airborne in a cardboard, or just turning up at the airport and seeing well, not a 747 anymore, but seeing an airliner take off, I still get buzz from it. Whenever we go to London, we park at Hatton Cross and walk very slowly to the tube to watch stuff depart.
we do. But also, just one sort of last thing is that 5 years ago, we did an Air Smiles Day. Some grandparents contacted us because they were bringing up their grandson, because sadly his mum had passed away, and it was coming up to a year anniversary since his mum had passed away, and he was really struggling at school, and the only thing that sort of lifted him was sort of looking at aeroplanes, saying he wanted to be a pilot. So we actually sort of got him to the airport. He had a flight with his granddad, talked to a British Airways pilot actually who came to lunch with him, and questions were flowing. And I've just had an email from his granddad 5 years on to say he's still thinking about it. Is there anything you can now offer him? And we're doing a pilot taster day for 12 teenagers at the end of October, and they're going to fly the 737 sim and then have a look at a flying school. But I'm using that opportunity to get them to the airport and then show them behind the scenes and show them other things, in case that, from a so our Air Smiles days can blend. 5 years on, they still remember what we do. And I think that says it all, really. That
making a big impact.
Yeah.
Okay, Kim and Darren, we've got some questions that we ask of all of our
guests.
Oh,
these are good.
So I'm going to kick off, and I'm going to say...
Who's answering first?
Kim.
Kim first.
And always ladies first.
Darren second.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just as long as that's sorted. Thank you.
So if you could go back and give some advice to your 10-year-old self, what would that be?
I would try harder at school academically.
Okay. Darren?
I'd probably say do your A-levels properly and apply to BA again and fly, but that doesn't mean that I don't regret not becoming a commercial pilot. There wouldn't have much change. I feel that I've been incredibly privileged in my career. Try harder at school.
Okay, Scott,
you wouldn't have got in. You're not good looking enough. You would have never made the grade.
I'll let you in, Scott. Sorry, your questions.
Kim, I think I probably know the answer to this one, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What is the thing that you're most proud of?
I mean, I could say everything from family, kids, and everything else, but obviously my recent award has actually really changed things for me personally.
Welcome to the gang, by the way.
Odd one out, Scott. But that I didn't have the greatest early career start in a male-dominated industry, should we say? So it was tough, and I have had, things have gone wrong through the years, and I would always put myself down. It was always me, and I just did do what I do. But to actually have such a recognition for it, I have to say I'm beyond proud, and it's done the charity the world of good. So yeah,
people tend to answer emails when you got MB after your name.
Yeah, they say yes.
And I have to say it, because when you're close to somebody, you take for granted that their passion is just what they do. But Kim's nomination was made by a member of Department for Transport staff who Kim was working with very briefly, just over the course of a couple of meetings, for us to apply for DFT grant funding for the charity, which was successful. But this woman was so taken by Kim's story and the things that she's done and saw the passion. That's where the initial nomination came from. and there were supporting statements from other industry people, and to have that passion recognised at the highest level. As Kim said, she had a really tough time at Gloucester in an ATC environment, male-dominated environment, making the tea and all that because she was the girl and all these things. But for somebody to see past all of that stuff and just pick up that passion just speaks volumes. And we're very lucky to have her at Fly2Help, and I'm very lucky to be.
Oh, so well, Darren, before, you've got to answer this question, but you haven't answered the question for yourself yet. So, what's the thing you're most proud of?
See, I knew what the questions were, but I really didn't think about that in advance. From an aviation point of view, my proudest moment was when we opened the doors at the Jet Age Museum at Gloucester, which I was quite heavily involved in setting up. And Eric Winkle-Brown shook my hand and said, "Well done," and all that type of stuff. And for me, having been associated, having gone to the museum at the airport in Southend when I was a kid, to have actually helped in the process of setting one up myself and have a legend like Winkle-Brown open it and recognise that was pretty special.
Awesome.
Final question then.
This could be a joint answer, maybe.
Yeah, this could be a joint answer. This could be a joint answer. So, what's in store for the next 5 years for the both of you, for the charity, however you choose to take this question?
Cool, then. She'll kill me for saying this, but Kim will have worked for 40 years in the industry next summer.
Wow.
And she says that she's going to kind of retire at that point. She's not. There's nothing she couldn't not get up in the morning and do something aviation related. But I think you'll perhaps you'll be able to volunteer more and deliver rather than plan and organise and all that type of stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I say step back. I'll never step back. I absolutely love what Fly2Help does, but from my point of view, I feel we're at a really good point now. So we now we've done all the development, so we just want to be out delivering. And the bit I love the most is either going to a school or having a group of school children turn up at an airport, and I would do that every day as a volunteer, and let someone else do all the organising and all the planning and waking up and thinking about it, and me sort of step back a little bit. But no, as Darren said, it's not going to happen. I will be still a big part of it. Absolutely love it. So
I'm going to carry on making cool stuff for the next 5 years because it's not a job, it's just fun. And I'm going to fly much more. I'd love to fly the Spitfire again. So I think Scotty needs to buy loads more stuff so I can afford to buy the
at a very reasonable price.
We'll carry on doing those dodgy receipts that you asked for last time, Scott. That's no problem.
Yeah, thanks. Nothing like throw me under the bus, is there? I've got to finish by saying it's been amazing having you both on. It really has. And learning more about the charity has been really, really great as well. And the one thing I will say, and Kim, I think you said it earlier when you were talking about all of this, is I looked at all of these photos when I was getting them for the show. And the one thing that resonated with me, I know it's called the Smile Program, but everybody's smiling. There is nobody there who doesn't want to be there. It's not like going to the the Natural History Museum where everybody's don't really want to go there. Everybody is smiling, and it's inspiring the next generations and generations. If you're hitting them at 5 years old, of potential aviators, engineers, air traffickers, ops staff, ground handlers. It's just amazing what you're doing. Really is, really is, and very worthy of your MBE. Congratulations on that. And it was an anniversary this year, wasn't it? Sorry, this month. Was it 10 years?
15.
Was the charity?
15 years. Yeah.
15 years. Wow. Wow. Which
just that whole thing. You captured it perfectly. You guys do it for a living. you have early reports and rubbish rosters and all that nitty gritty niff-naff and trivia to deal with, but I defy anybody who flies not at some point of that flight to have a huge great smile on their face when they pop out the top of the clouds, or they're sat there in the sunshine at 35,000 feet, or somewhere over Greenland arranging meetings, and it's there. It has that passion that will never go away. And I think anybody who works in the industry has a duty to share that. We just have the opportunity through the charity.
Yeah, brilliant.
How lovely. Heartwarming.
Thanks for being on with us tonight, and we will no doubt definitely not see you in your workshop soon. Definitely
Thanks,
not.
Kim. Thanks, Darren.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on both.
Yes, bye everyone. Wow.
I feel like
What?
I'm going to have to supervise this trip.
Look, all we'll get like big joke receipts with like £1 written on them.
I'd be like, by the way-
I've already got all those. Darren did those with his. Do you remember the John Bull printing set? I had one of those in the car, and I was printing up my own receipts on the way home. Yeah. Oh no, I shouldn't be
I
saying
feel
that on
like
here.
it'll be
'Cause
like, it was only £1.50, but on something unrelated, we're moving. We're going to have to sell that.
Yeah, we're going to need actually funny old thing. Yeah, we're going to need a bigger house. Thanks for watching tonight. Some really cool, stuff here. Martin Keeping is actually going to Gloucester tomorrow on a Piaggio.
He's going to have to make sure the wings and the engines are all definitely in the right position.
Yeah, it's the wrong way around. It's the wrong way around.
Yeah,
Martin.
I wouldn't give it its art for that very reason. It's all
Right,
back
well,
to-
Scotty, it's probably past your bedtime if it's landing day.
Yeah, it is. Are you telling me I've got to stop talking now and get on with it? Yeah.
That was lovely. That was a charming, wonderful, heartwarming, amazing chat, wasn't it?
It was. Next week, we've got another live next week, and we've got no idea who's going to be on, because we're going to have to use the tombola again and see who comes out.
Well, I'll be
Good
standing
so
by, so I may or may not be joining you.
Well, this is always the challenge. This is the challenge at the moment that's offering us this,
Yes.
this reshaping of the channel. So anyway, but it's going to
Cool,
be
yeah.
awesome. Have an awesome week.
Have a good week, Scotty. We'll catch up soon.
It is. Yeah, we'll catch
Thanks,
up later.
everyone.
And everyone, don't forget to subscribe. The merch is coming soon. Not that we did any product placement at all. And if anybody want any mugs instead of buying Darren's cool stuff, we may have some mugs coming soon on the website. But more on that later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.